Thomas raced into the yard. Percy was coming the other way. Thomas bumped straight into Percy and the bunting flew up in the air. Percy's trucks came off the big puff and blew. Bertie skidded all over the road. Percy, he cried. Snowball got bigger and bigger. Percy was enjoying himself until he saw the snowball. "Oh no!" cried Percy. Luckily, no one was hurt, but his driver was crossed over, Thomas said to himself. And it soon was. Luckily, no one was hurt. But Thomas felt sadder than ever. "Late engine, Emily, the late engine," they sang. This made Emily very cross, and she biffed them very hard. "Oh no," they cried, and splashed into the duck pond. Emily was covered in a flowery spray as hard as he could. But the fish trucks were too heavy. "Oops," said Thomas. "Sorry." Salty was covered in fish. "To hurry," puffed Thomas. He heaved, he huffed, and he puffed, and at last the coupling broke. Thomas shot forward. Cocoa powder flew everywhere. It was just around the corner. Then there was trouble. Thomas clipped the telegraph pole and they all came off the tracks. Luckily, no one was hurt. "Cinders and ashes," Thomas cried. And he didn't see the goods train ahead until it was too late. Luckily, no one was hurt, but Gordon came off the rails. He was covered in gooey red jam. Suddenly, Neville saw a barrier on the track. He slammed on his brakes, but it was too late. Neville was in terrible trouble. But suddenly there was a terrible noise. As the dust cleared, Emily saw what had happened. But it was too late. "Bust my buffers!" cried James.
Thomas biffed the freight cars out of the way and rolled up under the chute himself. When Thomas puffed out the other side, he was covered from dome to buffer in pure white flour.
So Thomas wasn't taking care. He biffed the truck very hard and the door came loose. But Thomas didn't see. But soon Sir Handel came to another hill. His pistons popped, his traction rods rattled, and his boiler bubbled and bounced. His pistons popped and his traction rods rattled. Inside the carriage, the picnic hamper, the flatbed bumped into the air, the bell tumbled off the flatbed and rolled down the hill. Clang, clang, boing went the bell as it fell and... Edward was approaching a signal. He was thinking about Rocky, and he was going too fast. Suddenly, the signal changed to red. Edward screeched to a stop, but the sides of the trucks collapsed. Steel pipes toppled all over the tracks. "Bust my buffers," puffed Edward. He looked at the heavy pipe. Then they heard Gordon. He was going fast. Then there was trouble. Gordon hit the pipes with a loud crunch. He came off the tracks. It was a terrible mess. He couldn't wait to show the children his fancy dress. Then there was trouble. The bubbles blew into his eyes. Thomas couldn't see where he was going, and he bumped straight into the back of Toby. Toby's axle was broken. "Sorry," puffed Thomas. Thomas puffed into the sidings and biffed into the buffers. Sticky toffee splattered everywhere. "Oh no," moaned Thomas. "I can't give the children train rides when I'm this messy." The signal turned red. James applied his brakes and screeched to a halt. But Edward couldn't stop in time. "Sorry," puffed Edward. "I didn't have time to stop." "Don't worry," moaned James. "It was my fault for pushing in." Skarloey's flatbed biffed into the sidings and came off the track. "Oh no," cried Thomas. Stones tipped out of the trucks. He slid all the way to the bottom. Thomas wasn't strong enough after all. Thomas felt very, very silly. And with one mighty biff, Thomas sent Hector rolling backwards into a set of buffers. Hector crashed off the track. Thomas felt very bad. He hadn't meant to knock Hector over. But when he puffed into the frosty forest, there was Edward with Henry's lucky trucks. "I found you!" Henry chuffed excitedly, but he puffed too quickly. His wheels slid on the icy tracks, and he biffed right into his lucky trucks. "Oh no! I've broken my lucky trucks!" groaned Hen. "The track is closed." Edward rattled round a bend and straight into a barrier. Parcels flew everywhere. "I'll never deliver the parcels on time now," he moaned. But he didn't see Bert pulling up behind him. Thomas bumped into Bert. The stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert and Harry. "Now we're really stinky," moaned Harry. "The most stinkiest engines ever," groaned Bert. Suddenly she backfired. The mud sprayed all over Rheneas and Skarloey. "Oh no!" cried Madge. Then bell. "Hooray!" he whistled. "A big school bell is far better than a little bicycle bell. With a bell that big, everyone will know the thing controller is there." The workman put the bell on the bike, but it was very heavy. The bicycle toppled off the flatbed and crashed to the ground. All the bells jingled and jangled. Thomas puffed towards Knapford. "Diesel moved in front of me on purpose," puffed Thomas to himself. Thomas felt cross. He wasn't looking where he was going. Then there was trouble. There was a cow on the line. Thomas turned quickly into a siding just in time. He hit the buffers and the billboard flew into the lake. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere. "No one told me there was another photograph." With a final jolt, the ropes broke. the magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. The water wheel rolled down the hill. It bounced onto Gordon's flatbed. Now Edward's magnificent water wheel was on its way to the smelt. He's whistling at my funfair special, thought Rosie proudly. But Stepney was whistling because the truck of sugar was now rolling towards him. Stepney bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. I'm nearly there, Emily thought. Emily steamed round the final bend and straight into a big puddle of mud. I'll puff through this, thought Emily. Then the track started to sink. Emily was stuck. Now! Duck puffed quickly forward as the water tower crashed to the ground. I rescued you. Thomas couldn't see that Diesel had arrived first behind him. Thomas bashed into Diesel. Stone poured down from the hopper. Thomas was covered from funnel to footplate in duck. But Thomas couldn't see Mavis. He raced backwards into the washdown and biffed into Mavis, who came off the rails. Ooh! Rattling rods! Ooh! They raced backwards towards Harry and Bert. With a crash and a bash, Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Stones and timber flew everywhere. Thomas couldn't slow down. He raced into an emergency siding and he hit the buffers with a big bump. More of the special blocks bounced off his flatbed down a steep bank. Now there was only one stack left. Hooray! I've made it! Here I come with the last special delivery. Thomas knew he had to slow down now, but he couldn't. Thomas's brakes had stopped working altogether. Fizzling fireboxes, what can I do? With a clang and a crash, Thomas clanked off the rails. Look out, Duncan! Stop! But it was too late. Skarloey crashed into Duncan's trucks. Bunting flew into the air. It fell all over Skarloey. Out of my way! I can't stop! Rusty stopped right across the tracks. Skarloey bashed into Rusty's trucks. Ice cream flew into the air and splattered all over the engines. He steamed into a siding. Skarloey bashed through the buffers. With a splash, a sploosh and a splosh, Skarloey plunged into Percival Pond.